Good morning, everybody. I hope this video finds you well. Yesterday, I made a video saying the United States declared war on China. It's been in the making for some time, and this Senate document, the Taiwan Relations Act of 2022, pretty much codifies it all. Basically, they're going on a war stance regards to China, and in the process, they're crossing about 3 red lines. It's all delineated in the document. Placing offensive arms and weapons on Taiwan. Offensive. Considering this part of China part of NATO. This part of China part of NATO. That's like Russia saying Tennessee is part of Russia. And a bunch of other stuff. Basically, what happens when a bully keeps on pushing? They just push harder. So this is pretty much a peak event. It's a peak event. And I wrote then, or I said then, I made the video then, I says, within hours of this being released publicly, I am sure that the Chinese would consider it a declaration of war. Doesn't matter what Joe Average in the United States thinks. Doesn't matter what CNN or BBC says. What matters here is what China thinks. And China would consider this a declaration of war, whether it's codified or anything. Now, within hours of release, two things happened. The first is a long-planned event of the SEO, where Russia and China and India and Iran and a few other people are going to get together with a big powwow, big meeting. But the Putin aides and the Xi Jinping aides and the military advisors were holding meetings earlier. And the second thing that happened was just reported on Redacted this morning, where there was an emergency briefing in a secure facility under the White House. The CIA immediately called up the top senators and congressmen and called them into a secure facility and gave them a briefing of the current changing of events. Natalie and et al., they both argued that they think it's a reaction to Putin dealing with the events in the Ukraine. The Ukrainian counteroffensive only took like 2% of the captured lands, so it's really not a significant event, not anything like the media is making out to be. And this kind of give and take and ebb and flow of battlefields, it's normal in war, so I'm not seeing anything. They suggested it's maybe that all of Putin's advisors and people ending up in Gazprom and those that are in the energy sector are being killed, jumping out of windows and mysteriously falling overboard and stuff, and that might be part of it. And then, of course, you have me, which is pretty much China-centric, and telling you what I think. But let's take a step back for just a second. Number one, America's not stopping for shit. They're poking and poking and poking and poking and poking. They don't have brakes. All they have is more, they press harder on the gas pedal. The second thing that's going on is you can't talk with them. They are liars. They break agreements and promises and treaties without any fanfare. You can't trust them, you can't talk with them, you can't believe them. They're agreement incapable. You can't make any kind of compromises with them. So that door is closed. So you've got somebody's pushing, and you can't reason with them. Sooner or later, you're going to have to do something about this. Now, China's been very adroit, sidestepping here and sidestepping there and sidestepping here and trying to be very nice about this whole thing. But anybody who's wisdom, anybody who's old knows that unless you take care of a problem, it's only going to get worse. You know this when you get older. You get a car and you hear a rattle in the car engine. If you don't take care of it right then, the rattle becomes a rumble. The rumble becomes a snap, and it breaks down in the worst possible time. You learn this as you get older. You learn to take care of the little things when they start happening, and not wait until they become a big thing. Raising a kid, you got a bully. You find he's a bully. You got to start doing something quick before it's impossible. My first wife had an older sister who complained about how she raised her one child wrong. And she used to try to toughen him up, and now he is just one tough bully, and he gets in all kinds of mischief. I don't know if he grew out of that phase or what, but the point is, you have to take care of things before they get worse. Now, regarding Ukraine, I would say that Russia was very, very hopeful, but it got worse and worse and worse until Russia had to take action. Armchair pundits say that Russia could have waited more because you have to give peace a chance. China should take more because of this reason or that reason. I don't know about you guys, but I think that China and Putin are run with people with some wisdom, some knowledge, and understanding, and they're not going to wait forever. And sooner or later, there's going to have to be some kind of pushback. But how will this pushback manifest? We don't know. What we do know is there was this meeting with the CIA and heads of Congress yesterday. We have no idea what was said. Some joker pulled the fire alarm, so there's flashing red lights in the middle of the meeting. Could be anything, could be show and tell, who knows what the hell. But I will tell you something. It's not a current common day event. Now, CIA does have assets. And we don't know how high up some of these assets are. But we do know that if some of the assets give reasonable intelligence of a worrisome nature, they call a special meeting. So we can assume that they have some intel, some intelligence that is worrisome and needs to be discussed with the Senate, the congressmen at the Senate. The Senate generally concerns with making laws. International policy is supposed to be held by the administration. So why are they talking to the Senate? Do you think CIA is concerned about domestic turmoil and unrest? That's not the CIA's job. That's the NSA's job, national security. That's the Department of Homeland Security's job, not the CIA. CIA is international. So the question here is, why is the CIA, an international group, talking about international issues with the senators? I myself can't help but think that it has something to do with Taiwan. That's my personal opinion. Now, intel from inside Beijing? Maybe, probably not. Usually it's the political channels. Beijing might have ambassadors talking to other nations, telling them that if anything happens, that they will treat this other nation as either a friend or an enemy depending upon their actions, and that they best be neutral. Now that's my guess. That's my guess. So let's suppose that that's the scenario that's going on, right? After this white paper is released and, the Hollywood, I don't know, they're going to sign it. They're going to sign it. Biden signs everything Senate comes up with, so he's going to sign it. They're just going to make this song and dance. What's going to happen? Well, China's going to do something. And perhaps some of these things that China's going to do, and I'm not talking militarily. Military is on the option, of course, but I'm not talking militarily. China could very well do some stuff that will totally blow the fucking socks off of all these senators who's got money and cash in these weapons companies. Or whatever companies. China wanted to, it could tank the stocks like that. All these companies in China, you guys have no idea. Most of the revenue for Coca-Cola comes from China. Most of the revenue from General Motors comes from China. Most of the revenue for Ford comes to China. General Motors, all these American companies, Westinghouse, all of them, they come from China. That's the revenue. If China says that's it, your products cannot be sold in the United States, the stomach's going to plummet. China says, your factories here, they're mine now. Suddenly, no brick and mortar stuff. It's just a bunch of diversity officers and accountants now in Starbucks. It could very well be that they're telling these senators that they are playing with a loaded gun right now, and they had best back off. Don't push Biden. Don't sign this document. They made they did what they're supposed to do. Now let it be and let it die. That might be the thing that they're telling them. But were it to be signed, you're going to see some economic turmoil in the United States that will make the Great Depression look like a day in paradise. Back in those days, they didn't have armed youth roaming the streets. They didn't have rolling blackouts and brownouts. They had people who would go out into the fields and pick to make a few extra bucks. They didn't have obese people as the norm. They didn't have fast food restaurants either. There's going to be a lot of changes if this happens. Now, of course, this is all my conjecture. Okay, what do I know? Conjecture, right? What I'm talking about is possible scenarios. They're just possibilities. Possible scenarios. Doesn't mean that it's the actual scenario. But I can tell you this. There is no question that Russia views the United States as an active participant in fighting it. Active. Leadership, command control, training. It's a whole thing. It's all United States led. No question. China views the problems with Taiwan and all this other stuff American led as well. There's no question about that either. If I were to then take these two facts, and they're facts, they're not conjecture, they're facts, and put them instead into a light that either is on or off or flashing, I would say that the red light in Russia right now is flashing. And the red light in China right now is flashing. And that's the reality. And you might be listening to CNN or BBC or Fox News or whatever, Drudge or whatever you may want to view your news from, thinking that the collapse of America is worldwide, but it's not the case. This is the case. Now, I'm an older guy, so I hope that somehow both Putin and Russia managed to dance this delicate game with an aggressive, crazed, manicidal, homicidal maniac. But as somebody who lived with a person with schizoaffective disorder, which is the worst part of bipolar and schizophrenia put together, I can tell you that there ain't no reasoning with them. And it's not going to go away. It can be controlled with medication, but it's not going to go away. And you're not going to make them better either. You can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. And that's the situation that they're dealing with right now. And no, it's not about the elections in November. Elections don't mean anything. Faces are going to change. Policy is going to stay the same. Like I said, it's a runaway train. If you can imagine it, an old-fashioned locomotive with the wheels rattling, and the steam getting up, like the scene from Back to the Future 2, where they got the runaway locomotive heading straight for the cliff. That's America today, guys. It's gonna crash. So we got this flashing, remember? We got this flashing going on. And so the meeting's called. CIA is talking to the senators. He could be talking about anything. They could be talking about how to make Halloween costumes for next month for the kids. They could be talking about the latest movies out of Hollywood. They could be talking about, what they're planning to do and the presents they're going to buy for Christmas. They could be talking about anything. They could be talking about not having enough diversity in Congress. They could be talking about anything. My bet here is that the warning is they're just talking to the senators and saying, you know what? You have riled up 2 hornets' nests right now. They're very, very angry. They're buzzing very, very loudly. And the senators are saying, well, of course, that's what we want. We want a big war. We want a war in the Ukraine. We want a war in Taiwan. Everything's working to plan. And I think, I have to think that the CIA is smarter than these dimwits. I think the CIA is telling them, a war in Ukraine like you want is going to be a war in America. A war in Taiwan like you want is going to be a war in America. They're like, okay, so we have a couple of riots and a couple of protests. I really believe they're saying, look, we're talking nuclear, guys. You're not going to have a home if you're alive. I mean, they're saying this is real serious stuff right now. You have really set a match to some stuff, and shit is going to start hitting the fan. And they're like, I'm sure. You see Nancy Pelosi. They're like dunderheads. They're like jaws hanging down. You saw Janet Yellen. Woo, I never figured there was a connection between inflation and printing money. Who would have thought? I swear to God, it is a seam from idiocracy. So, I'm sure the CIA head gave them a dog and pony show. If it's really, really serious, I'm sure he probably put the fear of God into them. Say, look, it's going to get bad. Now, he wouldn't say, you're going to die, but I'm sure he'd say something like, it'll be ugly. He will probably use euphemisms. And that's what happens, They run on euphemisms and rhetoric, and they can't tell the difference between reality and what they say. They think it's the one and the same. It's not. You can't say that the world is that there's no employment and everybody is happy under Biden when you see tent cities all over the place and broad daylight robberies. You can't say that, but we do. So the point here is they're having a talk. They had a powwow, and we don't know what's going on. Things are ratcheting up. They're going from red to flashing red very fast. For instance, those of you who know what's going on in Syria, the only reason the United States is in Syria is to steal the oil. So there's been convoys of oil tankers going out, or container trucks filled with oil going to load into ports to ship to America. That's been going on for a week or so, and guess what? Russia blew all those facilities up now. So the United States can't get oil from Syria. Because the United States can't get oil from Syria, some of the plans regarding fuel and fuel prices right before the November elections in the United States will not happen. You understanding what I'm saying? President Biden was counting on fuel prices stabilizing and getting better right before November elections. That's not going to happen now. The theft of oil from Syria has stopped. Okay? That's one item. Number two, Russia's no longer playing. Not only did it wipe out the electricity grids and a lot of the command and control, which was NATO generals and NATO's colonels who were staying at these facilities, they're also blowing up dams. They blew up a major dam. No more hydroelectric power, but also a large section of communities and homes are now flooded. Russia's no longer playing. Okay? It's no longer playing. Armenia is joining in the fray. You're like, well, what's tiny Armenia? Armenia strikes at the underbelly of Europe. You're going to start seeing some very, very interesting and confusing geopolitical adaptations. Fourth thing, in the Ukraine, the Azov battalion, the Nazi battalion, 1/3 of it's all NATO members and mercenaries. It's no wonder then, while there's black guys speaking with American accents, they're wearing Nazi uniforms. Black guys in Ukraine fighting Russians wearing Nazi uniforms. In case you don't know what I'm saying Nazi uniforms. They're wearing Nazi uniforms. Americans, under Biden, wearing Nazi uniforms, fighting Russians. Yeah, this is not a horror flick. This is reality. And finally, blunt words out of Moscow. Nuclear war is coming. Now, if you pay any attention to the feed in the EU, you'll know that Scotland and a number of the territories are trying to argue with the EU, telling them that they are fucking out of their minds. You don't ally with the United States. But they're like, yeah, but he gives me millions of dollars in houses and prostitutes. I love this guy. There might be a little bit of dissent. It's not going to make a hill of beans. What's going to make a hill of beans is mass starvation and freezing your fucking asses off this winter. That's what's going to make the difference. This will not be a pleasant winter for many people in the West. Russia, another winter. China, it's fine. United States, you guys, are not going to have what you think you're going to have. And Europe is really going to be in real trouble. Russia's no longer playing, guys. All the grain from the Ukraine, which was supposed to change and be humanitarian and help the world, didn't go to Russia or didn't go to Africa. Instead, it went to America. So you know what Russia did? They blew up all the port facilities. No grain can get out anymore. That's it. It's over. It's over. All the ports are destroyed now. It's not mining the ports and then you have to demine it. They're destroyed. The ports are gone. You see what happened to the port of Beirut after Israel wiped it out? Yeah, they're all gone right now. You'll need a Chinese rebuilding effort to put it back in place. Or you can have an American rebuilding effort and it'll be rebuilt in 30 years. You think I'm joking, huh? That's the way it works. All right, so that's it. The door is closed for food to Europe. The door is closed for gas to Europe. So the situation and this convolution of events is creating, like I said, these flashing warning lights. And the idiots in Washington, D.C., who are all kind of controlling this damn clusterfuck, are completely ignorant. All right, so I'm just reporting on this. I'm just telling you in case you guys don't watch Redacted. And that's kind of what's going on. None of this is being reported in the West. I don't know what you guys think if all you read is mainstream media. You think the world is all hunky-dory, I guess. Basically, the United States is pissed off Asia, and they're not going to stand for anything. And if Russia goes nuclear, the first strikes will probably be United States. The reasoning is that once you destroy the villain, all the rest of those smaller nations are going to be on their own. And they're going to have to either shut up or stand up. My guess from these pile of dipweeds, and look at them, they're dipweeds, they're going to shut up and cower. One or two might say, we're going to fight to the end, and then Russia will nuke them. That's my gut feeling. In the meantime, people, have a good day. I'm giving you this update. Don't freak out about it. Get yourself a cup of coffee. And you know what might be nice? Go to a diner and get yourself a Monte Cristo. A Monte Cristo. It's it's ham, cheese, turkey, and bacon inside of bread and deep fried. Have that with some French fries and hot gravy over it. And coleslaw, side of coleslaw. Gotta have a side of coleslaw. That's the American in me. And enjoy that in a diner. Forget about this video. Okay? Take care, guys, and remember, as always, I believe in you.